Welcome to the Got Any Cows podcast. If you want to learn all you can about the beef cattle industry, this is the podcast for you. My name is Seth Christensen. My company has sent beef cattle genetics to 45 of the 50 states and 12 countries around the world. I've had the chance to learn from some of the best and brightest in the beef cattle industry, and I invite you to join me for those conversations here on the Got Any Cows podcast. I'm here at Mistvale Akaushi with my friend Aaron Harris. Appreciate you taking the time to host us today, Aaron, and have us here out to the ranch. If you would, give us a little bit of background on who you are and where we sit, please.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming out, Seth. Our ranch is in Bryan, Texas, which is right next to Texas A&M University. We run about 14 full-bloods right now, but we have about 24 heifers, so we'll be up to about 40 head of cows next year. And we have a small beef program that we're currently doing about 5 a year, but we're planning on scaling to be about 40 a year in the next 2 to 3 years.
Wonderful.
And I live out here with my wife, Lisa, and she's a professor at A&M, so kind of how we moved up here was that I grew up on a dairy farm, and so I was looking for a way to come back into agriculture.
Yeah.
And we looked at Wagyu, and we went to the Texas Wagyu sale, and saw the black cattle, and we decided that that wasn't for us. There were a couple Akaushi that ran through there, and we thought, oh, those are something we could probably deal with.
Yeah.
And so that's how we got into the Akaushi business.
Right.
So we had this ranch. After the pandemic, I didn't have to work in Houston anymore for my job at NRG.
Okay.
Doing software development and artificial intelligence.
So you deal with the serious AI. I just do artificial insemination.
Yeah, no, I lead a team. I lead teams of probably 5 people each, 5 to 10 people on large projects at NRG. Doing analysis on generation plants and the market, so commodities. So the commodity side actually is pretty relevant to the cattle side, because I can understand some of what's going on in those markets,
Right.
And kind of how to think about how that works. So I've done a lot of analytics over my career. So I've been in the power business for 11 years now.
Okay.
Other than my hiatus where I went to Legendary.
Right. Sure.
Which I still consult for them.
Yeah.
So we came out here. We got a couple cows. Alicia doesn't have any agriculture experience until now, but she's learning really well.
Yeah.
She really enjoys the cattle. That's why our cattle are so docile. It's because
Sure.
we want to make sure that they're enjoyable to work with, and she definitely enjoys them. That's why we don't feed any out here on the ranch.
Yeah.
Because that would be tough.
I remember being a kid, and I remember raising like some hogs for the family there. And I remember, you get pretty attached to the animal, and then one day they weren't there, and we had a freezer full of pork. I'm like, what'd you do to my pig?
Yeah, no, we don't want any of those incidents here. I'm not allowed to say which steer it is after they've been gone for over a year.
Yep.
So we're going to keep it that way, so that way I can keep some Akaushi cattle around the place.
You bet, absolutely. So your background prior to Akaushi, then you'd been in the dairy industry. Walk us through, I guess, your experiences there, or what all you did in the dairy industry growing up.
Yeah, so since I was about 5 years old, my parents owned a place in Pennsylvania, and they still own it today. It's about 125 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ran replacement dairy cattle on there. So we had a heifer operation, mostly Holsteins. And so we had 250 head on that 120 acres in a confined barn. We let them out to pasture every now and again.
Sure.
And so we started out there small, and we had like 10 we started out with bottle calves. And that's when I started showing as well. And so my dad bought me a calf from a Amish or Mennonite guy up the street to show. And I was pretty hooked at that point in time.
Right.
And, but we were last place.
I've got a fellow like select banner type guy or whatever. I don't even remember what they call it, participation ribbon maybe. I came in last. The one time I've ever showed an animal in my career. I've judged a bunch of shows, but the one time I've ever showed it, they're like, you can probably take this one home. White ribbon or whatever.
So at the county fair we were last.
Yep.
But that kind of was motivation more than anything else.
Yeah.
From that point in time, I learned about the data, and I learned about what was winning shows, and we learned about how to feed them, which is probably one of the most critical things when when you're showing cattle.
You bet.
And so dairy cattle you feed a lot different than what you feed beef cattle.
Right. Right.
But we had learned all those tricks. We met up with the right people, and by the time I graduated high school, we went from last place at the local fair to grand champion. If we didn't get that at the local fair, we were pretty disappointed.
Good for you. Good for you. So you didn't stop with the last place.
No,
That was my one and done with.
And then if we weren't junior champions, more of it, because we didn't show that many cows. So,
Sure.
But we did win grand fair a couple times.
Yeah.
And then the state and national level shows, like we did place in the top 10 of some of those 40 or 50 head classes.
Good for you. Absolutely.
Pretty good achievement for starting out where we did.
Yeah.
Not really having a dairy herd too. So like.
Sure.
So like I did milk cows on the neighbor's place, and we kept some cows. With a couple people that we used to show animals for my FFA and 4-H projects. But
Yeah.
other than that, we did that. And so I think with the association and stuff, I think that like junior members are definitely important. So like the Zenkyo is something that we've been putting together because Alicia and I have kids. I'd like for them to be able to show the cattle that we raise and not have to get something different in order for them to be able to participate.
Right. Right. So you mentioned you were showing cattle growing up, and now there is an opportunity to be able to show Akaushi cattle in your present day operation and for your kids going forward. You mentioned the Zenkyo. What is the Zenkyo? And that just operated for the first time last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So halter breaking cattle is a pain, as
Yep.
people know.
Yep.
But I would still suggest that people do it because it helps get them docile. And if you have a bull that's halter broke, you see my place here, Seth. It's a pain to have to hook up that cattle trailer and take it over there every time, and especially when it's like now we have
Sure.
feet of water instead of inches of water.
Yes.
You can't get the cattle trailer in there, so it's really easy to put the halter on that bull and take them across the street instead of having to do that. So we can do that with our bulls now.
Yes.
Which is almost about to become a requirement.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But so that's halter breaking. But like Jenna Jennings, she's our intern, and she won the showmanship class there this year and at Cattlemen's Congress. She's done a great job working our cattle. And so she's working with us on the beef program too, which we'll talk about. But the Zenkyo is inspired by the Japanese event. So every 5 years, Japan has like a cattle show and like research exhibition. Is probably the best way to put it. So they do everything from halter shows of cattle to carcass, like live carcass, like they kill them there and break it down, and then they judge the carcass that way, to like the traditional carcass contests as well, ultrasound and that kind of stuff there too. It's coming up next year. I'm thinking about going.
Yeah. When is the Zenkyo and where is the Zenkyo?
The Zenkyo in Japan is in August of next year.
Okay.
And so, like I said, that's a 5-year event.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they have many Akaushi cattle that go there because Akaushi aren't very big in Japan.
Sure. Yeah.
But they definitely have. It's definitely something interesting to look at. So that's going to be interesting if our Zenkyo here in Brenham is a reverse. And we did have we had an equal number of Akaushi cattle to black Wagyu cattle there this year, and I think the black guys definitely want to participate.
Yeah.
And we've had a great experience working with them, and that's one of the great things I love about the Zenkyo and Brenham is that it brings everyone together.
Yeah.
And there's not really a lot of division or anything like that. It's just, hey, like we want to come out, we're going to show cattle, we're going to have a stake. This year we're going to have a stake contest, and for people who can't halter break them, we're going to have a commercial bull show, which you'll have to sell private treaty. We have some terms worked up for how that'll work.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a 3 heifer pen show as well. You don't have to sell the heifers.
Okay.
But if you want to, we'll allow for that.
Okay.
As well. So it's evolving. We're getting more stuff. And then another interesting aspect is, again, the beef is really what's important about our breed. And so we've got chefs to come in and do demonstrations. We're going to do a dinner this year. I think it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and I think it's so important to have events like that. Like you mentioned, just opportunities for people to come together and sharing everything from the beef to seeing how they look on ultrasound to how they look live, and just having a chance to compare these animals and, yeah, show off what has worked and what has worked well, and have a chance to compare those cattle and get together and take a look at them across the board, evaluate them in all of those different ways. So I think it's neat that you've been able to take, from your background in dairy cattle, or coming from that in your childhood, and be able to bring that over and say, hey, now we're talking about showing Japanese cattle, and in this case, Akaushi.
Yeah, and Dr. Aaron Cooper and Peyton Wormke helped me put this together as well.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of experience in the beef show world, which was
Yeah.
really critical to getting the people
Sure.
that we needed there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's definitely a team effort in that thing. And we got Texas Wagyu Association is a major sponsor of it, and
Yeah.
the Akaushi Association is a major sponsor of it too. And so again, it's just a great thing where everyone can come together and do that. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we put it together in 3 months last year, which was
Sure.
pretty fast. And
Yeah.
we had about 250 people from the general public come, which I thought was
That's
outstanding.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Absolutely. You
We had
bet.
about 17 head of cattle.
Yeah.
So we could improve there a little bit. But,
Sure.
But it's the first year. People didn't really have a lot of time to halter break. And
Yeah.
there aren't really a lot of other opportunities to show. So it's kind of hard to justify it for one event.
Sure.
That's where
sure.
I've struggled kind of with that in terms of doing it.
Yeah.
But this year we'll also have a West Texas State Fair. The Akaushi Association has sponsored, which is in Abilene.
Okay.
And so entries for that open up July 1st.
Okay.
And that's going to be in mid-September.
Okay. Yep.
And then Cattlemen's Congress, there's a show there as well. So
And then I believe the National Western has an opportunity, if I'm not mistaken, as far as you can show in that setting. I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
no, I think that one's gone now.
That one might be gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So kind of the way the shows worked before was you had to be registered with the American Wagyu Association.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
And so
yeah, right.
now these shows that are cropping up nowadays, like even the one that the Akaushi Association is sponsoring in Abilene
Sure.
for West Texas, we're letting anybody
Sure. Yeah.
show. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where your cattle are registered.
Right.
They can be registered in the Akaushi Association, in the Australian Association, or in the American Association. We want you to bring them on down.
Yeah. You bet. So
And
regardless of registry, you can show at Zenkyo, at West Texas State Fair, and Cattlemen's Congress. Would be a
Correct.
circuit for you.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for adults to show off the genetics that they've built. And then showing is a great thing for the kids as well.
Yes.
In order for them to learn about hard work and
Yeah.
dedication and the industry in general.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that F1s can show at all these shows as well. So I would highly encourage producers of all stripes to come. I was actually kind of surprised. We had all full bloods last year.
Oh, interesting.
At the
Okay,
Zenkyo.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I think there's a big gap there because I think there's a lot more F1 cattle out there that could be
Sure.
halter broke or put in a pen and
Yeah.
brought down. And I think that that's a great way to show off the breed as well.
You bet. So going back to your experience, even on the dairy side of things, where you mentioned first getting involved with shows, between then and now, you've gotten involved with Akaushi. We've talked about Akaushi shows, all these opportunities that are now available to show cattle in the Akaushi world. But you also mentioned data and analytics and what you do professionally in your work. How did you get involved in data coming from a dairy background, and now you work in data professionally? How did that occur? I guess your education and then your career, and then I'd like to lead to kind of how that's impacted Akaushi. But back it up, I guess, to your history. How did you get involved in data and analytics?
Yeah, so I think that part of it was not seeing a future in agriculture.
Sure.
So I kind of saw what I'd call the downfall of the dairy industry, where you got to get extremely big or get out.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'd spent so many summers at Penn State with dairy judging and everything else. I did this thing called Governor School, which was an awesome experience. I learned a lot about scientific research and animal science and stuff there.
Yeah.
But after that, I think I had enough of state college for the time being. So
Yep.
I went and joined the military.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was in the National Guard.
I had no idea. Well, thank you for your service.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so I did that. I took a year off college, and when I came back, I went to a liberal arts college called Moravian College.
Okay.
And that's where I met my wife our freshman year.
Yeah.
We've been together ever since.
Yeah.
But I studied political science and economics.
Okay.
And
I'm an econ grad as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I definitely got a lot more rigor from the economics, but the political science was kind of what I was studying at that point in time because
Sure.
I had interned with the governor's campaign
Yeah.
before I started. So when I got back from my basic training and job skill training, I got an internship with the governor on his campaign.
Yeah.
Knocking on doors, setting up parades, doing all that kind of stuff. And so I had an internship every single year. And then my senior year, he lost re-election.
Oh, no.
And so you can either
Okay,
call that
yeah.
that was probably the best, worst thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
So I decided not to go into politics, which was great because
yeah.
I would not do very well in politics at the end of the day. And so I ended up working in a battery factory for a little bit,
Okay.
putting batteries together.
Okay.
And I applied to go into management like 4 or 5 months after I'd been there. My buddy's family owned the place.
Yeah.
But then I posted my resume online, and PPL Electric found it. They hired me as a supply chain analyst. I got into programming. I got more into statistics than what I had done in econ.
Yeah.
And learned all the things economists do wrong.
Sure.
And
I never made it that far.
and make up.
Yeah.
And then I got I had some papers published when I was an undergrad, and then
Good
when
for
I was doing my master's at A&M, and so I got a master's degree in analytics.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I got into data. And then when I graduated at PPL, I was in regulatory operations, which was good because it kind of mixed my political science and analytics together.
Sure.
I did load forecasting and worked on the tariff and policy and stuff there.
Okay.
But when I graduated, NRG picked me up and they put me in the load forecasting group. I got hired in the load forecasting group, and that's when I moved to Texas in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way the power business works is it's actually a segregated market. So you have the regulated portion, which is usually just the wires business.
Okay.
So in Idaho, it's not this way.
Okay.
But in a lot of other states, it is. So you have the wires business, and then you have, so there's transmission and distribution.
Yeah.
And then you have the generation plants.
Okay.
And so sometimes those are bundled together. In Texas, they're not.
Gotcha.
So generation plants are deregulated here and in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And so then there's a market. So then there's an ISO, which is the market operator.
Okay.
And they are the ones that are responsible for making sure there's no rolling blackouts.
Gotcha.
So ERCOT, PJM, MISO, NISO.
Okay.
I don't know what yours is called because we don't participate there. But,
I was gonna say I know that we haven't had rolling blackouts, and that's probably about where my knowledge ends.
Yeah. So then I moved into then I got put in the we'll call it like the Center of AI and Machine Learning Intelligence or Excellence, and so we were like a centralized team, and then that's where I've been doing a lot of project work, like instance, like I was using LLMs, which are large language models, in 2022, 2021.
Really? Interesting.
Implementing them at NRG.
Long time before most would.
Yeah. So we're kind of the tip of the sword for all that kind of stuff. And so I'm back at NRG now, and
so with all of that background that you now have, both in cattle and in data, you mentioned a brief hiatus over to Legendary and that you still consult for. Walk us through a little bit of, I guess, what you did with Legendary and then how you're applying data, even like in the role you and I both sit on the Research and Improvement Committee, which I believe you head or chair that group. Walk us through, both of those experiences, the Legendary experience and then the Research and Improvement, and I guess how data and cattle impact both of those.
As we discussed earlier, like the Akaushi data is kind of sparse, right?
Sure,
like,
right.
People have some here, people have some there.
Yeah.
There's some data that's maybe not enough quality in order to create EPDs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's useless.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so with my background at NRG, I try to figure out how we make every piece of data worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's really good in terms of doing this kind of stuff. At Legendary, I kind of helped Steve determine how we were going to gather the data.
Right.
And so we put together some contemporary groups with red cattle, black cattle, F1s, foundation sires. He's got some interesting contemporary groups on that, I believe. And some other stuff like that. And so kind of getting that in place, but then making sure that we're doing the things in order to get there, right? Because you can't just say we're going to gather data.
Right.
Like you have to have a plan of execution. You have to have a way to get it.
Yeah.
And so like we started ultrasound scanning when I was over there.
Yeah.
Full time. I think that now they're working with a big Akaushi beef processor in order to get MIJ camera data on the steers and stuff that they're raising as well. I haven't seen a lot of that yet, but I know that it exists or is going to exist very soon on those contemporary groups that we had planned out 2 years ago. So they should be starting to come through now, which is really exciting.
Right. Well, it takes so much time. I think that's probably one of the biggest inhibitors to gathering quality data is it takes so much time, from the time you plan, like this is what we'd like to do, to then making the matings, to then calving the animals, raising the animals, getting all the way through to harvest. It's a years long process. It requires some real long-term dedication to even gather the data, much less really analyze it.
It's a 3-year process, right?
Yes.
I mean, because
yep.
there's a mating, selection, and gestation period even
Right.
before that, right?
Right,
So even if
correct.
you're killing them at
2
20
years of age.
months,
Yeah, yep.
you're still over 24, 25 months of
Yep.
planning for that whole deal.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I don't do the polled thing, but that's why the polled thing's kind of interesting, because if you're not using the polled genetics that are out there, like, that's another place I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to kind of build their own niche, is breeding up polled animals.
Yeah.
But like anyone who's doing that, I would suggest that they start gathering data on their F1s and their commercial cows.
Yeah.
So that way they have that to submit, or they have that for their own knowledge either way before they start putting these polled animals into the purebred program.
And I think you bring up a great point there when you talk about just the importance of gathering data, because like you've mentioned, I mean, even with all the ability you have to analyze data and or these large language models and all of what artificial intelligence can do at this point, there's so many opportunities as far as ways to analyze data, but the data has to exist first. And so, I mean, I think, two takeaways I would say from you and your experiences, but, one, the show side of stuff, that there's an opportunity to engage there, but then I'd encourage people to engage in things like the Zenkyo. But then also when we talk about data collection, that there has to be you have to start somewhere. And I think quite often, this is one thing that I see as far as just an attitude at large. People say, well, it's somebody else's responsibility to gather this data, or to put together these EPDs, or to give me a set of selection criteria, right? And I say it is all of our responsibility to be gathering the data, to be figuring out, okay, what is working and what's not. Because if there's not at least a base level data set, what are we going to run analytics on?
And I'll say that's one of the most frustrating, not just on analytics, but in general, that's one of the most frustrating things that I think I've run into in my experience in the industry, is just like, hey, like I need this, or I need that, or they should be doing this.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well,
it's someone else's problem.
They can do it, but you need to do it too. Like, you can't just demand, and I think that people sometimes get it a little twisted on like whose data the data is.
Right.
Like when I kill my cattle, that's my data.
Yeah.
If I decide not to give it to the members, or to the population, or to anybody, that's my own decision.
Sure.
Or if my data is not clean enough to put out there, then I probably shouldn't be putting it out there anyway.
Sure.
And so that NRG, we have the opposite problem. We have so much data in so many different places that no one, that like they hire a guy like me in order to figure out how we're going to organize all this stuff and use it.
Yeah.
Whereas and there are some ranches, there are some large operations out there that that's the case, where if we got some more of that information, that it would definitely help. Legendary is probably one of them, but that's where, as a research committee and as a board, like, we can organize in order to get that stuff together. Yeah. But we have to have a good system to do it first. So like that, we can talk about EPDs and my adversary to some of them, right? So like, accuracy is extremely important.
Absolutely.
And not just accuracy, but like what's behind the data.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you like, you can use whatever data you want to build. Like I can build you a model that I can say is X% accurate on whatever data you give me. Trust me, I can do all kinds of voodoo in order to make it work.
Right. Yes.
Now, does that mean that it's correct? Absolutely not.
Right.
And so just because I say I can build a model with all this information, or I say that, hey, like, so-and-so does it this way, that doesn't mean anything. And so that's something else that I think we need to keep in mind when we're looking at this stuff, is that like, it is going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of people working together. Because like, let's just say that 2 of the largest ranches had all this, let's say that it was a perfect world, right?
Yeah.
All of it existed. Everything was there. It was all good. That doesn't matter, because you still need to be able to build the models to cross ranches into my operation, or your operation, or somebody with 5 heads operation. Right. And that's not something that's going to happen if just 1 or 2 ranches turn in their data.
Well, and I think, a lot of it, and I've had so many conversations with so many different people that'll bring in varying perspectives. I mean, that's the purpose of this podcast, is to have the opportunity to share all these perspectives and experiences. But a common theme across all these different discussions is the importance of taking personal responsibility, whether that is for showing your cattle, whether that is for gathering your data. We talk about for developing a market. We talk about for, establishing culling criteria or a breeding program. Being being willing and able to say, hey, look, it's not someone else's job to provide me with a set of EPDs. It's not someone else's job to provide me with a perfect market or with, with
Right.
whatever else it may be.
Or with the carcass data, right?
Right. It's not someone else's job.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's
Yep.
why we've leaned into the beef program here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And why I think everybody who's in the Akaushi business needs to be in the meat business first.
Sure, absolutely.
And
yes.
that's another thing when I went to Legendary, like that was one thing that we set out to establish is that like, hey, like we got a lot of cattle here.
Yeah.
They're not all worth $50,000.
Right, exactly.
And
yes.
so since
Yep,
they're not
yep.
all worth $50,000,
Yeah.
something has to happen to them.
Yes.
Something that
Yep.
makes them profitable.
Right,
And,
correct.
And the answer
Yep.
to that is the beef business because
Exactly, yes.
you're not only getting profit off of the beef that you sell, you're getting the intelligence from the data, you're getting the experience of raising those cattle.
Yep.
And then you're also setting your price floor.
Right.
Like I think that's
Absolutely.
what people
Yes.
I think
Yep.
that's where people
Yep.
make the biggest mistake.
Yep.
If I sell $4,000 bulls off my place, then guess what my price is?
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
$4,000.
Right.
Like I should never expect to get any more than that because everyone's going to be able to come in and that's what they're going to say the bulls are worth, right?
Sure.
But when I use that carcass, if I can sell it in Houston for $7,500, which is about wholesale,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Then, okay, so I would have had to develop that bull with feed anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Right.
I had to feed
yep.
the steer.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, the difference in cost of raising that bull to 24 months or raising that steer to 24 months is
Very
pennies
minimal.
on the dollar.
Right. Yes. Yep.
And
yep.
so if I can sell that steer for $7,500 or I sell that bull for $5,500, guess which is the better
Right.
deal?
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think you make a great point there. I mean, when it comes to selling the meat, the beauty of Akaushi, I mean, even going back to the front edge of our discussion, you're talking about wanting to get into Wagyu. You didn't want to necessarily get into the black Wagyu, as far as like, well, they maybe didn't suit your taste. That's the same for me. They didn't suit my taste. The Akaushi do. They're good cattle, but they're excellent carcasses, and so the beauty of this breed is that even if they don't work out as breeding animals, or if they aren't the $50,000 feature or the donor or the stud, they make an awesome quality carcass. And so like you said, if you can have that as your base and we can go ahead and harvest cattle and say, look, we're just going to eliminate these. It's not a case of saying, oh, we gave up or we lost out here. Saying, no, like go ahead. If you're not sure it needs to be a bull, like really genuinely positive it needs to be a bull, like you said, you're way better off to have it be a steer. You truthfully are.
And that's the thing. So nowadays, I won't keep any bull that's not a bull in my program.
Right. Yeah.
Any bull that I won't put on that I won't turn out on my full blood
Yep.
cows in that other pasture is not a
Yep.
bull at our place.
Right. And I think it's an excellent approach. It needs to happen more often because I think one of the things that I've seen, and I'm sure that you've seen as well in these last couple of years, quite often people get excited like, well, it's a full-blood Akaushi calf, or it's an embryo transfer calf, or it's an AI sired calf, or it's got a neat pedigree, whatever else it may be. It should be good. Just because it's a full-blood doesn't mean it's a bull. Just because it's an embryo transfer calf doesn't mean it's a bull. Just because it's an AI sired calf doesn't mean it's a bull. It has got to be one, like you said, that you're more than willing to turn out on your own cows, or it's better off to be castrated. And again, it's not anyone else's responsibility to build that market for you. To say, well, the market is good because of X, Y, and Z, or the market is bad because of X, Y, and Z. No, let's take personal responsibility, each of us individually on our own ranches, and say, hey, if it doesn't have to be a bull, it shouldn't. I mean, we've taken the nuts off of so many embryo transfer, full blood, foundation sired, yada, all the bells, all the whistles. And that's because I believe, same as you do, they don't all need to be bulls, and even if you sell them as feeders, like for us individually within my program, we don't necessarily take everything right through to kill. But we'll sell them as feeders to people who do. But we'll sell them as steers, and we continue to take the nuts off more and more and more of them because it's hard, it definitely, it makes my stomach churn a little every time I do it to say like, this, but he's got a great sire, it's got a great dam, I put a lot of money into making this embryo transfer calf. But if I'm not positive this thing needs to be a stud, if it's not something that I'd say, I would collect semen on this thing, we're taking the nuts off.
But even on the embryo transfer pedigree thing, like it doesn't mean much.
Right.
That's another thing, right? Like you're out in my pasture and we saw 97, 87 Y times Joe. I got a bunch of them.
Yeah,
right?
Wonderful cross. They've turned out really well. Yeah.
They're all, but then the reason why they're wonderful is because they're so uniform, right? Like they've all got that thickness. They've all got that build.
Yep.
They're all great animals. But I have that one that I mean, it might be the recip, so maybe she'll catch up. Who
Sure,
knows,
sure.
right?
Yep.
But as of right now, she's an outlier in
Yeah.
the wrong direction.
Sure, yes.
Right,
Yep,
and
yep,
so
yep.
she's built really well,
Yeah.
but she just doesn't have the growth or the maturity, early maturity. So that's something that we breed for in our program too.
Yeah,
Is that
yep.
we breed for the early maturity because we're looking right now. We're harvesting between 22 and 28 months, but we're looking to get that to be between 18 and
Yeah.
22 months.
Yes.
Rather
Yep,
soon.
yep.
And I think that we will do that with this next batch with
Yeah.
how we started creep feeding calves and stuff.
Sure.
I think the creep feed is really critical to getting that early harvest.
For anyone that's not familiar, if you would just give us a brief definition of creep feed, what creep feed is, what you're doing.
Okay, yeah. So creep feed is a feed that you give your calves in the pasture. So you have a feeder and it has like a fence around it with slots for the calves to be able to get through. And then they're able to go in there and eat feed while they're on their mama.
Right, so the cows can't get to it, but the calves can, and it's
Right.
usually going to be a concentrate feed of some kind.
Right.
You know. So,
Right. Yeah, I get a great one from Circle P.
Yeah.
Nick spoke at our field day yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
He's our feed guy. He taught us a lot about feeding beef cattle for showing.
Yes. Yeah. So here's a question for you real quick, and I apologize, I'm jumping a little bit here. You mentioned your field day, though. Sounds like it was really well attended. That would have been yesterday here
Yep.
at Mistvale. Walk us through, I guess, what that was and how your experience was, and what all happened yesterday. I missed it. I'm here a day late recording with you after the field day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the field day was great. It was a lot of work.
Yes,
For
yeah.
anybody who's thinking about doing one.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
definitely not a simple task
Right,
by any stretch
right.
of the imagination.
Yeah, we've punted by a year out of fear of that. I don't dare do it till my wife is like alive to do it, and she's about to have a baby. So
Yeah. So we put in a lot of hours the last week, 2 weeks. My buddy from Pennsylvania came down with his kid to help me put the place together, which was really great.
Yeah.
It's great to have friends like that.
Yeah.
But we got the place together. We got a barn put up. And we had Travis Jones brought his lot. I had my lot down here, and then a bull Holy War, which we sell semen on.
Yeah.
He was also displayed in the pens down there.
Yeah.
And so we just had people come in. We had it from 10 to 2, so people could come get Wagyu tallow donuts in the morning and mimosas. And so people just came through. We talked through the cattle and kind of talked about the operation. And then at noon, we had full-blood Akaushi burgers and chips, potato
Awesome.
chips,
Awesome.
tallow potato chips.
Yeah, those are wonderful. You just shared a couple with
yeah.
me just a moment ago. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they came out really good.
Yeah.
And so we had a presentation about our program, kind of like what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And then Nick, who's my feed guy, he talked to people about feeding cattle.
Yes.
And so it's just a great opportunity for people to come learn, see the cattle. There's not really a lot of opportunities to go see these cattle in person
Sure.
nowadays. That's the
Yeah.
other great thing about shows is that I've made a lot of contacts with commercial cattlemen
Yeah.
that I probably would have never made if I wouldn't taken them to the Dixie National or to Cattlemen's Congress. So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's that aspect to those kind of things too, whether it be the field day or whether it be a show where you actually get to show people that, hey, like, when they hear Wagyu, they think of something that looks like a longhorn.
Right. Yeah.
And when you see that Yang bull, you don't think he looks like a longhorn.
Right. Well, really impressive bull. You know, I mean, I ought to tip my hat to you there. I mean, that Joe over 97, is 97, 87 wise is the
Yep.
number on that dam. So Tamamaru over Big Al over Himawari, beautiful bull. You know, thick, stout. And like you mentioned in the consistency between him and his brother, you know, you've got his brother out breeding cows, and you got Joe Yang right here in the pen off to the side, and both just impressive bulls. You know, strong top, deep sided, lots of width at the base. They're good bulls. You know, and that's fun to see that we say, hey, you can have a bull that looks like this that produces a carcass as valuable as what we're talking about as far as a high value carcass.
Right. And I think sometimes people get high value carcass a little twisted.
Sure.
So to me, a 40% DMP carcass is not high value. It's a liability in some instances because my customers know what the difference between a full blood carcass and a half blood carcass is. Like they'll definitely be able to taste the difference in the meat.
Yeah.
But they start to get a little iffy when it starts to get up over about 35% DMP.
Yeah.
Now they don't want anything under 20 either.
Sure.
But there's kind of a sweet spot there that I think that breeders kind of are looking for kind of the meat. I call it meat porn. Maybe we cut that. But yeah, kind of
That's a quality term for it, though. It is. It's trying to say, well, look at just how much fat or marbling we can stick in it. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Well,
and you can go wait, and again, it's about when you breed extremes, you get into trouble, right?
Right.
And so,
right. Yep.
and so that's I will tell you that to me, I've seen that a lot. I think a lot of the growth problems we have in the breed are attributed to people breeding what they think. I don't know that it is what marble is the best,
right?
But I think it's attributed to what they think marble is the best.
Yes.
And then stacking that and stacking it, and then feeding them for 30 to 38 months, and then just continuing the process, and then saying, wow, look at this awesome steak that I have.
Yeah, look
and
at
then
this
the question
meat
is, pretty much. Yeah. And then it's like, hey, what is your market for that?
Right, yes.
How many of those can you sell a year? Like, I don't doubt that you can sell 3 or 4 or 5 carcasses like that a year.
Yeah.
But could you sell 20?
Right.
Could you sell 40? Like, could you actually build a viable program off of selling this? And if you can sell them for 15,000 a carcass, absolutely.
Sure.
That's your market, and I'm not gonna belittle that or say that it's not a strategy, because it definitely is.
Sure.
People do it. It's a good thing to do, but it's just not what fits our program. And I can assure you that people say, well, you don't have, maybe they'll say, well, hey, you don't have the luxury customers. Well, I work at NRG Energy, a Fortune 50 company now, I think. Like, trust me, the luxury customers work there, and they're my customers.
Right.
So I know what they want.
Yep. Well, and this is, I'm glad you mentioned this point, because it's interesting when I talk to breeders, as far as like, okay, what are maybe some breeding targets or some goals or things they want to do? I mean, I have people telling me, we just want to make a marble, which is great. I get it. Like, we don't want to lose sight of what brought us to the dance. And we've been talking about like the carcass quality of these cattle and having a high quality carcass. We don't want them to be devoid of marbling, but by any means, but more marbling perpetually being the target. I think it's really easy to, people will say, well, clearly if marbling is good, then more marbling is better in perpetuity. It's kind of the natural line of thought. And like you mentioned, past a certain point, there is a threshold there. Honestly, the only complaint I have ever had on Akaushi beef ever, because it's a wonderful product. It's what my family eats. It's what I share with friends and family, clients, it is a superior product. Like, I'm hooked. I'm ruined. Like, it's Akaushi beef or Akaushi beef for me. The only complaint I've ever had is that it is too heavily marbled. That it's a little too fatty or a little too greasy. And so I guess the point I'm making there is that I agree with you that it's like, hey, we need to make sure that we don't want to remove the marbling. It's not what I'm saying by any means, but that the whole goal, the whole purpose, like, we want as high quality an eating experience as possible, but max eating experience is not necessarily directly correlated with maximum marbling.
Exactly.
Would be what I would say.
And I know some people will say that, like, well, then you should raise F1s, but
Sure.
But the F1 product is a different product from the full blood product.
Yeah. Yep.
In terms of melting point, in terms of tenderness, in terms of just general taste.
In terms of consistency, for sure, depending on which parent they trend towards. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I see a lot of value in kind of making sure that our full blood and purebred animals finish in a reasonable time frame.
You bet.
Right?
You bet.
So even if some of them don't have a lot of growth, like I'd say Red Emperor is probably one of those bulls that doesn't have a ton of growth.
Yeah.
But he does have early marbling.
Yeah.
And I think that my Holy War bull is probably going to be roughly the same way, calving East sire.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, he was a really, really mature calf.
Yeah.
And he was a really, really mature yearling.
Yeah.
For what he was. So
Sure.
So that's something that we're looking for, is like, hey, not just what's the biggest animal or what's the framiest animal or what's the most marbled animal after X period of time, but how quickly do you get there, and and you can kind of tell that from looking at these cattle as well, I believe.
Yep. And I think it's important. You define something that's important to you and to your program. We're talking about early maturity here. And I think it's so important that each program does put a little bit of their own spin on this is something that's important to us, right? Or this is something we're going to pursue. And that's what moves the breed forward at large, is saying, hey, you're going to bring forward something that is earlier maturing, than breed average. And there's going to be people that need that, right, and can incorporate that in their programs. And I'd encourage everybody individually to say, hey, within our program, here's a trait we're going to add. Here's something we want to focus. And I'm not saying to single trait select. I'm in agreement with you. We need to make sure there's balance in all of these different targets. But I think it's important and a positive thing that everyone puts a little bit of their own individual spin on their program, because if all your program is exactly the same as somebody else's program, like, well, I'm a knockoff version of this one, or I'm just like the Japanese, or I'm just like this competing program, or whatever, well, then frankly, why would anyone come to you as a genetics supplier if you're just like someone else? You should be a little different. I think that's good and positive to lean into that.
And that's why our base is not just Heart Brand or not just Legendary. Like the base of my herd is a combination of both of those two.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we've kind of taken bulls that we think complement both of those animals or cross those animals. Like we're building animals that are crosses of them right now. Like my Z cow, she has a calf on her right now that's kind of, I'd say, a legendary. She's a legendary breeding of the double Z and Hiromitsu, and then the calf that's on her is a Rhubarb out of a cow I purchased from Heart Brand. So and he's a beautiful calf. He's growing really quick. So I think that there's not, people need to kind of define their own path. At TWA, I had someone kind of ask me for advice on like what sires to choose. And so I won't give people advice on what sires to choose for the most time. You and I talk, well, I will give one piece of advice. If you flush them to Hero, Joe, or Rhubarb, and you don't get a good one, it's not a donor cow.
Right. Absolutely. That's true.
That's definitely one piece of sire advice that I would give. But outside of that, like the main thing people need to do is just gather the data and figure out what's good, figure out what they actually have, and then move forward from there. Like there's no shame in having something that like is a little bit more difficult to define what the pedigree is, maybe. But is something that works.
Right.
And I think we saw that last night. With the state contest. With Andrew Pryor's Summit Bull, right?
Absolutely.
I knew what he was because I've done a lot of analysis into that carcass data set.
Correct.
But I think a lot of other people will realize what he is now because of the results.
Right. Well, and I think you make a very valid point there, because I think it's easy for all of us. I think it's natural to say, hey, if I look at a pedigree, if I see names I recognize, that that's a positive. So, well, this is kind of a brand name pedigree, or like a foundation bred pedigree. Whereas sometimes, if you look at a pedigree and it's like, well, I don't really necessarily know all these names. By definition, in our head, sometimes we want to say, well, that would mean that this animal's inferior in the sense of it doesn't have maybe the brand name recognition. But a bull like Summit, of Andrew's up there at 16 Peaks, now I guess will have that brand name recognition in the sense of he won the first, he's grand champion of this first carcass contest. But that he came from a pedigree that if someone was to just glance at it, looks fairly generic. You know what I mean? If you're looking at what the pedigree is. But he's identified, hey, this is a superior individual. And that's what we need to move the breed forward. If all we do is now there's a place for the foundation animals, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've got them present in my herd, you've got them present in yours. There's only so many of them, right? And it's important to have those foundation animals present from a genetic breadth standpoint. So
that's how you build the outcrosses and how you build performance, right? So that's where Legendary's program has a ton of value.
Sure, adding that outcross.
And why I've been very fortunate to work there is that we get the ability to build new things. That's the true value of the foundation genetics.
And that's the key point, exactly like you mentioned, is building the new things. Because if all we ever did was breed foundation on foundation on foundation on foundation, and we never, ever, ever identified a Summit or another bull like under that to move forward with, frankly, we're just circling the toilet bowl of average because we keep breeding the exact same handful of animals that came in.
And the data I've looked at will show you what you'll get if you keep doing that.
Right.
Do you know what that is?
Yep. Average.
The average of what came off the boat in the 90s.
In the 90s.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And so there are a lot of great programs out there that have moved past that point. I think that at some point in time, and I've noticed this in my own program, right, I have to find a bull like Summit or something like that because it's like, well, what am I going to breed to?
Sure.
Right. So now I'm so far ahead that it's like, okay, but now do I go back?
Right.
Like, where do I go? There's a bunch of decisions to make there that aren't necessarily easy to make because of kind of where some of the breed is.
Right, yep. Well, and I mean, Summit is a great example, right? And a neat bull, and so appreciate Andrew and his work there at 16 Peaks, and the Heart Brand's work in the breeding behind that bull, and your work, in analyzing some of that data and things like that. But I think each of us individually can and should find and identify animals that are moving the needle within our own herds for our own set of selection criteria. And I think there's an opportunity there. Like you mentioned, I mean, go ahead and take these cattle through to kill. I would tell people, hey, plan on the animals you produce being harvested. They're all going to be harvested at some point. Someone somewhere is going to harvest every animal they're ever, like at some point it's going to be beef. So go ahead and, I mean, plan on them being beef. And yeah, the very best few need to carry forward and make them a donor or make them a stud or have them just be a cow within the herd, whatever that may be. But plan on taking them right through end to end and analyze them for what matters to you. I mean, like in our program, docility, fertility, calving ease, growth, marbling, longevity, those are in priority order, basically just walking across the lifespan of an animal, right? And every program, I'm not telling people that's how others should define their program. I'm saying this is how I define mine and these evaluation points. But those evaluation points at every one of them, I'm saying, okay, here's another bull that's losing his nuts.
You should find the best female that's at the head of that class, right, in order to move forward.
Right. You're finding the best few to multiply.
And if you can, I would say not take her backwards.
Now,
there are some breeding strategies where that is necessary, right?
Sure.
So, like, there's some points in time where you get so far out and maybe you've stacked so much stuff that's kind of further along bred on top of itself that if you take it back. So I know Dr. Cooper's done this with, like, Hikari and his Gina cow.
Sure. Yep.
Like, those are beautiful calves if you've ever seen them. But it's because it's kind of that outcross. And so and so that's something that you like. There's more complex strategies to it, but to my point, like, you have to know what you're doing and you have to know what you have before you can start to do that.
Right. Well, and I think it should be said, even someone that has one animal one animal's hard to guess. It's really hard to compare 1 to 1. But we'll even say 2 or 5 or 10 or whatever it may be. Compare within your group. Who's the best animals should be ones you're looking at breeding forward. The worst animals should be eaten. Whether you eat them, whether you sell them as a feeder steer, whatever that may be.
Well, the worst thing you can do is sell them to somebody else.
Right. And I say they should go into a feeder program, right? They should go out as steers, we're every time we measure anything, we're removing another set of testicles somewhere. Like, they're born too heavy, nut them. If they wean too light, nut them. If they don't scan, nut them. If they've got an attitude issue, nut them. So on and so on. And I'm saying nut them as in castrate. It's not only applicable to males. That's just the most directly applicable. That one act directly takes them from this was a breeding animal before, and this gender assignment surgery is going to make them
no
longer a breeding animal. And so I think there's an opportunity there to say, hey, let's make these beef. Not breeding stock. So you mentioned a couple of different, unique products that you're making within your program and that you're looking at for beef. What are some of the unique things you've done to market beef rather than saying, well, they've all got to be breeding stocks? You're making, you were talking about a really high cull rate and some pretty unique product offerings. Walk us through those things.
Yeah. So one thing I have learned in the beef program is that you can sell a lot of it without doing a lot of work. If you want to.
Sure.
Like, it's easy to sell 3 to 5 steers, in my opinion.
All
you got to do is go to work, give somebody some hamburger, and they'll order, hopefully they order an eighth or a quarter from you, but in my experience, they usually ask you for your ribeyes, which can be a problem in and of itself. But that's where you have to think about pricing and how you do that, because, like, we don't give away ribeyes.
Right.
We make sure we price them at about $75, $80 a pound.
And
so if people really want them, they can have them. Because that kind of brings our, if we were able to sell everything like that, that kind of brings our total carcass value out to about $17,000.
Right.
Which we don't sell everything that way.
Right.
But yeah, so our program is just kind of relationship based like that. After we get a little bit bigger, we'll probably go to the farmer's market and do it that way. But we will not ship beef. Shipping beef is a pain. And if we don't have to do it, we're not going to do it. And so that's been our stance on that. We did do a little bit over Christmas. We didn't have any train wrecks, but it gave me enough heartache that I don't want to do it again.
Right. Fair enough. Yes.
And so we sell steaks like that and burger like everyone else does, but we started getting into some of the tallow stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll pull up some of those things.
Yeah, right now I've got in front of me, I've got Mistvale Akaushi beef tallow. Ingredients, rendered beef fat. That
Yep.
is one ingredient in there. Yep.
Yep, and it's full blood. So all of
Okay,
of
yeah.
our steers in our program are full blood steers
Yeah.
currently. We'd probably do some purebreds, but we probably wouldn't go below that because
Yeah.
of the product that our customers expect.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Well, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because it's like, I mean, to the point we were talking earlier, I said there's a lot of times people think, well, because it is a purebred or a full blood, by definition, that makes it a breeding animal. Like, no, by definition, it makes it excellent quality
Excellent
tallow
beef,
or
yeah.
excellent beef, excellent whatever else. You know, and the best few you breed, but the bulk of them, they should be a consumable, is what they should be.
Yep. And then here we have a candle. So I don't have my
Okay.
labels on them yet.
Okay, yeah.
But I'll give this to you to take back as well.
And it's a really pleasant smell. You know, it's a really, really nice candle. You mentioned, was it watermelon that you went for?
Yeah, we went for a
scent?
watermelon smell in that. We
Yeah.
had some orange and some lavender ones as well.
Yeah. And it's fun and it's unique to say, hey, not only are you selling steaks or roasts or burger or whatever else, you're selling candles, you're selling tallow. You're able to use the tallow to make those potato chips, that we tried
Yep.
some, which were wonderful.
I was going to bring those up next.
Yeah, perfect. Let's grab those. I'm just going to park with these right here so I can eat them the rest of the time, But yeah, they're a wonderful product, and it's fun. It's fun to say, okay, now everything in cattle, not everybody can know or appreciate, but food, everyone's got to eat, and
Yep.
it's fun to be able to take and share a unique product, even if it's somebody that's never seen or been around or known a thing about cows in their life. You can take something like this or Akaushi Wagyu beef tallow, make a really fun potato chip out of it. Anyone can appreciate that. Like, I think that's pretty fun.
I know they're mine, but I do think they're the best potato chip I've probably ever had.
They're pretty dang good. They're pretty dang good. Yeah. Yep. No, those are fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it. Looking at the tallow, the sky's the limit on what you can do with that. I mean, you've got the tallow just as a raw product that you could use for cooking, or I've heard of people using it for everything from, sunscreens and balms and lotions and soaps, and we've got a candle there. We've got potato chips there. You talked about making donuts in the tallow.
Yep.
There's just really a broad series of opportunities within those products. And I've seen people do things like pet foods, or even take things like the organs or things like that wouldn't normally be consumed by an American audience, but they're making pet food.
Well, I've heard about
like
bodybuilders do like the Muscle Man
Yep.
burger, which is like the organs and the hamburger
yes.
mixed together.
Right, yeah. And there's such a series of opportunities there, and that's where I think people should say, hey, by default, these are beef. The best few will carry forward with and breed with, but it doesn't take very many animals to turn into a whole pile of animals really quickly. They don't all need to be breeders.
Yep.
Let's take it. Whether you're evaluating them at a show, whether you're evaluating them in a data set, whether we're just building our own little data set and what we analyze, figure out the very best few they can carry forward and be your donors, your studs, your cow herd, whatever else. Everybody else, plan to eat them or sell to somebody who will. That's all animals need eaten at some point. I think that's one of the biggest differentiators people need to understand is like, hey, these are meant to be eaten, not that they all need to be bred in perpetuity.
Yeah, for sure. And and to be fair, like we have called pretty hard in the last year or so, but we didn't do that to begin with.
Oh,
you know
and
what
I agree.
mean?
And that's the same position I'm in. I'm learning as I go.
So that's where like the other thing, like I know it hurts to like change your plan or like your business, but at a certain point in time, you have to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you have to be resilient enough to adapt to that.
Right.
And so I think that's a thing that people are going to have to do, because if they don't, like, you can't make a living selling $4,000 bulls.
Sure.
And
Yep.
And it also hurts the industry as a whole.
Sure.
When we do that.
Sure. Yep. Well, I think the more we can go and say, hey, if it's not going to be the front edge, if it's not going to be the best, if it's not going to trade pretty darn well, we're better off to trade it as a steer than as a bull. That is the better option, because and like you said, better on both fronts, better for the seller, because frankly, you can quite often get more money out of the steer, and better for the buyer, because you're going to take only the very best few are going to breed. Everything else is it can make a great beef product, even if it isn't going to make a great breeding bull.
Well, even if you're selling your calves, if you find a program that has an MIJ camera to sell them into, it's more valuable to you to sell those calves, even if it's just for a little bit of a premium.
Sure.
Because then you're breaking even and you're not having to feed that animal
Right.
for that period of time, and
Yeah.
it's not on your
Yep.
place.
Right.
That's the other part of that too.
Oh, for sure. And, and that's one thing I look at today, and even, you mentioned premiums and things like that. In today's cattle market, we're at all-time highs. I mean, like commodity cattle have never in the history of the world been worth more than they are today. So even if you just sell them at commodity values, even if there's not a premium above that, you're still selling cattle for more than anyone has ever sold cattle for ever.
For sure. We should talk about another one of my favorite market topics.
Yeah.
Now,
Go right
which is Akaushi as a hedge.
Uh-huh.
So I view Akaushi bulls and black Wagyu bulls to an
Yeah.
extent as a hedge to the beef market.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like right now the premiums aren't there.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
And people can argue about why the premiums went away, but I think that there's only one real reason. I think if you look back at 2015, 2011,
Yep.
you'll see the same pattern over and over and over again.
Right,
As
right.
cattle prices go up, Wagyu prices go down.
Yep,
And that
yep.
and that applies to both breeds.
Right,
it seems.
right. Yep. They
Because
run
like I can't,
countercyclical.
yeah,
Yep.
and I can't pay you a premium. Like as a beef program,
Right,
I can't
right,
pay you a
right.
premium on $5 a pound.
Exactly.
And I
The
definitely
base money is too high.
and I
Yes.
definitely
Yep.
can't pay you a 20% premium on
Right, right,
on
right.
$5 a pound.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And because that's just not fair, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
And when it comes back to like people kind of making demands or kind of
Yeah.
wanting things to work a certain way, like that's
Yeah.
kind of how I felt about some of the premiums discussions that we've had over the last few years. Is
Sure.
that like, yeah, like they said you were going to get a premium, like whoever you bought your bull from. Like I know there are
Yeah.
a few programs out there doing that.
Sure.
That didn't end up doing that,
Yeah.
but like. I can't blame them. Like,
Right.
like you're making $5 a pound on your calves.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
how are you demanding a premium on said calves?
Right. Well,
and that's really a big point. Is that like, yeah. So okay, maybe they wean a little lighter.
Sure.
Right. And yeah, but like this is a hedge that you took
Yes.
because when the cattle market goes the other way, those premiums are going to come back.
Right.
And when those premiums come back, you're going to be benefiting
Right.
off the bull.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think, to your point, so, I mean, honestly, and this is the thing that's crazy. Like you said, I mean, $5, that's not a crazy wild pie in the sky number. That's like cattle are trading at $5 all over. I mean, for weanling calves, all over the place, $5 a pound. It's been a much more normal number to see over the course of the last 10 years, $1.50. $1.50 on a 5-weight calf was very normal.
Yep.
Very normal for the
Yep.
bulk of the last 10 years, short of these last couple. And so, I mean, yeah, if somebody says, well, the base money is $1.50, you're going to make $1.70 plus, like, and this is the thing that's crazy to me. People will get frustrated because they say, well, yeah, I didn't get my 20 cents over. And you're saying, okay, so you're telling me when it was $1.50, you wanted $1.70, and you'd have taken $1.70 happily. But it's at $5, and you're mad that it's not $5.20? You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I mean, I'm one of these guys, just so
Sure,
we're clear.
sure, yeah,
I mean, I'm
yeah,
one of the
right,
guys
right.
who's not paying the premium.
Sure,
like,
sure,
Like
yeah,
I was
yeah,
buying
yeah.
full-blood calves at a 35% premium
Sure.
at a certain point in time. I don't do that anymore.
Sure, yeah, right,
like
right.
it's not feasible
It's not
for me to do
feasible.
that.
Well, yeah.
There's no business sense in doing it.
No,
So
no.
that's what I mean. No matter
Yeah.
no matter what the program is, like
Yeah.
you can't expect a premium to be paid on those cattle.
Well, and it's like you said, it's a hedge because, I mean, at today's cattle market values, no matter what you sell them, I mean, no matter what you breed, no matter what you sell, they're all worth a pile right now. They're all worth a ton. It's when the market goes back the other way, which, I mean, we got 100 years of data that says it will.
It
I mean,
definitely
like,
will. I've been calling it for
definitely
a while
will.
and I've been
Yeah.
wrong, but I'm going to be right one of these times.
At some point, it will go the other way. Now, I can't tell you exactly when or exactly how far, but I can tell you we got 100 years of data that says, I mean, roughly 10 years peak to peak, roughly 10 years trough to trough. And it's just a basic supply and demand model. There's all sorts of short-term shocks that move that thing up and down throughout, but it is basic supply and demand. It takes a long time to adjust supply and demand when it takes 9 months to gestate them and another year plus to raise them to sexual maturity and another 9 months to gestate that calf. It takes a long time to adjust supply in cattle. So what I'm getting around to is when it goes down the opposite direction, when we get back in the realm of normal and we're in $1.50 calves, $1.70, 20 cents over or whatever, maybe 20, 30, 40 cents over are all very normal numbers. That can be the difference between profitability and loss
When you
in
need
that
it.
kind of a setting. Yes,
When you
so it
need
is
it,
a
yeah.
hedge. Because right now, yeah, I mean, everyone's going to make money. Like a monkey could make money in this market, right? It's when you go the opposite direction and things are low and you're like, hey, what do I have that's going to add a premium or be a value differentiator when I need it, when things are tight, when things are hard? And that's where I say, hey, look, you're a lot better off to be positioned with Akaushi genetics present in your herd now than be like, hey, let's wait for the thing to fall apart and then introduce an Akaushi bull and wait 9 months for them to gestate and another 7 for them to wean,
Exactly.
and so on and so forth.
And in your replacement females, when you have an Akaushi bull, you're getting a lot of benefits as well.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You've seen my place. It's essentially a swamp
Yeah.
right now. And sometimes it's like that for 3 or 4 months at a time.
Sure.
Because we're down here in the river bottom.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of shade.
Yeah, yep.
It's extremely hot here
Yep.
in central Texas.
Yep, even the camera was sweating.
Yeah, the camera was sweating. So that's why we call the place Mistvale, is
Yeah.
because you have a veil of mist
Yep.
where you can barely see your hand in front of your face
Yep.
at certain points in time because of the
Yep.
humidity and the fog
Yeah.
down here.
Yep.
And we haven't had any problem with the cattle at all. And that's part of what we really love about them, is that
Yeah.
they're extremely heat tolerant,
Yep.
more so than even Brangus.
Yeah, yep.
They're extremely docile if you work with them the right way, as you've
Right.
seen.
Handling's important, but
Yep.
yeah, you've got some extremely docile cattle.
They
Yes.
calve easy.
Yep.
And then at the same point in time, a big one for us is we don't have a problem with foot rot.
Right, right.
And
Yep,
foot
yep.
rot is the big issue
For sure.
in an environment
for sure.
like this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an understated value. People look at Akaushi and only see the carcass or only see the beef or only see the value on the terminal end. But absolutely, these cows, I mean, when we talk about functionality, and I say this is, I mean, I've worked with a series of different breeds in beef cattle. And I mean, if you want to find teenage cows that have calved every year and stayed in production, it is a challenge in other breeds to find cows that have stayed in production every single year into their teens, calving on time, raising a quality calf. It is very, very common in Akaushi to find cows get into their teens and continue to breed back and continue to raise a quality calf. Feet hold up, udders hold up, and you're feeding a cow that weighs 1,000, 1,200 pounds instead of a cow that weighs 1,800 pounds. And the number one cost in any beef operation is feed. So
Yep.
we're decreasing that cost. The number two cost, again, I mean, different people could run math or argue this point, but depreciation or replacement cost of your females
Yep.
is number two. And any asset, I'm no data analyst, but any asset that depreciates over 12 plus years instead of 6 or 8 on the average cow, or 10 at best, is going to cost you significantly less per year in depreciation on those replacement costs. And then you're not only have we reduced feed costs and reduced replacement costs, but we're selling a premium product, especially in a down market, versus just selling a commodity product or something that isn't a superior product on the rail.
Well, and the good thing about them living so long is that then you get to decide when you're going to call them instead of them deciding
Yes.
when they're going to fall out of the herd.
Right, right.
So
Yes,
I have
yep,
two
yep.
females that are 14, 15 years old
Yep.
across the street. Yeah, they've calved all the time. There's
Yep.
no real issues with them.
Yep.
But are they going to stick around? Probably not. I got a lot of younger females
Sure.
that are going to come up.
Yep.
And so it might be time to move them down the road because we got a lot of offspring out of them that are great
Yeah.
offspring.
Yeah.
But it's just time to move on. And
Yep.
so I think
Yep.
that that's something else that people should really consider when they're thinking about what a donor is or what
Right.
or what needs to stay in the herd.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I guess looking at it in summary, Aaron, if there was anything that you were going to say, going back a handful of years, to when you first got involved with Akaushi and your experience from then to now, looking at anybody that's maybe just getting involved in Akaushi, is there anything that you would say to that person that might be listening to this podcast? Any recommendations, tips or tricks or pitfalls to avoid as we kind of wrap up here?
I'd say be open-minded and make sure that you're seeing everything.
Yeah.
Like take the trip to Heart Brand.
Yeah.
Take
yeah.
the trip to Legendary.
You bet.
Take the trip to other breeders out there, smaller breeders like myself or like to your operation.
You bet.
And figure out what a good cow looks like in the breed.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of time people compare the cattle to Black Wagyu. Mm-hmm. And so then they think, oh, wow, these look really great. But when you
Yeah.
compare some of those Akaushi to some of the other Akaushi out there,
Sure.
it's a completely different story.
Yeah,
And so I think I would encourage people to be open-minded. And then the other thing would be to do your own work.
Yeah.
Make sure you're gathering the data, make sure you're doing the hard work that goes into being successful.
You
Because
bet.
if you're not willing to put in the work, then you're not going to be successful.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us. And thank you for being willing to host us here.
Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
coming in a day late. I appreciate you working with me and being flexible there and look forward to spending some time there at convention.
Cool, thanks. It'll
Thanks,
be
man.
a great time.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Got Any Cows podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And visit us anytime at gotanycows.com.